Hello, we're doing a movie review, and the movie we want to review is Batman the Movie. Now, Batman the Movie came out in 1966, and this is a spin-off of the television series Batman, which I believe that also aired in 1966, right?
Yeah, from 1966 to 1968.
The show is obviously based on the comic book character created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. Now, I'll admit, I've only seen a handful of episodes of the show, but I know you've seen a lot more than I have, so if you want to talk about the show.
Yeah, the show was based off the comics, specifically the ones around that time, the 50s and the 60s, which were, silly and cartoony and colorful and over the top. So it took on the aspects of those comics, and it was kid-friendly, unlike a lot of today's Batman. Not that I have a problem with those versions, but yeah, it was more for a kid-friendly audience. It didn't take itself so seriously. It was very, like I said, over the top and cartoony, but
and intentionally so, from what I can tell. The show is basically a comedy. You could almost say it's a parody of the Batman comics. At the same time, a lot of the Batman comics from around that time were actually that goofy. I mean, granted, the Batman comics started out pretty dark, but over time they got very silly, especially when we got into the golden and silver age of Batman.
I mean, I love the show. Even though I do prefer the darker versions of Batman, I still do love this show, especially since it is what got me into Batman in the first place. I was 7 years old, and I remember I was also into the show The Munsters as a kid, so I would flip on TV Land where the reruns were aired, and back then I didn't have a schedule. You couldn't see on the TV when the shows were going to air. You had to kind of just flip on the TV channel and hope it was showing. So I did that. I flipped on the TV hoping there would be an episode of The Munsters on, and I caught an episode of Batman right at the moment when Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson, answer the bat phone from Commissioner Gordon, and Bruce says to the Batcave, and then they run to the poles and they slide down, and then and then the intro came on, and I was hooked from then on out. And I also find it kind of interesting that I found it while looking for an episode of The Munsters, because I don't know if you guys are aware of the history of that show, but the reason that show got canceled after 2 seasons was because Batman came and stole the Munsters audience away from them. So,
as I said, I've only seen a handful of episodes of the show. It was really this movie, Batman the Movie, that was my introduction to this Batman. I'm pretty sure I saw the Tim Burton movie prior to this, but I do remember seeing this movie as a little kid. I actually used to have it on VHS as a little kid. It's funny, as a little kid, I never saw it as goofy. You know what I mean? As a little kid, I actually thought, this was meant to be taken seriously, which shows that I was kind of stupid when I was a little kid.
Well, to be fair, I think when you're a kid, some things look more, shall we say, adult than they really are because you're so young and you don't know any better. But as you get older, you start to notice, this isn't so mature.
Batman the Movie, it's a really, really fun film. It's a comedy. It's absolutely a comedy. There's no way they were even remotely trying to take this seriously.
Oh, absolutely not.
But what makes it funnier is the fact that, as silly as it is, in a way the actors do take it seriously. That's what makes it so hilarious, is you have Adam West and Burt Ward delivering this ridiculous dialogue, yet they're so straight-faced when they say it. I think that's a real appeal of this movie.
Yeah, I think that was intentional. I think they kind of wanted to have the characters, or at least Batman and Robin, be taking everything seriously, kind of reacting to the situations in a very, stern and serious manner, and yet it is pretty ridiculous, a lot of it,
What do you think of Batman the Movie?
Oh, I love it. It's great. It's like you said, it's a lot of fun. It's, the plot is kind of all over the place, but I don't mind. Batman and Robin discover a plot to kidnap this captain of this yacht and also a plot to...
dehydrate members of the United Nations.
Yes, that's right. Dehydrate members of the United Nations.
And turn them into dust and put them in little vials.
Yeah, and hold them for ransom.
The villains behind the plot are the Joker, Penguin, the Riddler, Catwoman. Those are the four main villains of the film. We gotta mention, like, Cesar Romero is the Joker. He's just so over the top.
Yeah.
Like, this is a far cry from... If you're used to Heath Ledger's Joker or Joaquin Phoenix's Joker or even Jack Nicholson's Joker, this might shock you at how just silly it is, you know?
He's pretty much harmless. I mean, yeah, he has the joy buzzer, and yeah, I mean, on the show he did put Batman and Robin into, death traps, but other than that, yeah, he's definitely the least threatening version of the Joker you'll probably ever see. Cesar Romero, I saw an interview with him from years ago, and I remember him saying, about playing the Joker, it was great fun to just let loose and act like a clown, that was, I don't know if he said those exact words, but something like it. You can tell he was just having so much fun with the role.
And same thing with, like, you and me just recently saw The Batman, and the Riddler's the main villain of that. And the Riddler in that is, like, the complete polar opposite of Frank Gorshin's Riddler.
Yeah. He's mostly very serious in the Batman, whereas, Frank Gorshin, he goes... it's a great performance, but yeah, tonally very different. I mean, they're polar opposites, him and Paul Dano.
We can't not mention the great Burgess Meredith as the Penguin.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, he was great in everything he did. I also... always enjoyed watching him in the Twilight Zone episodes he starred on, and he's great here, Fun fact, he had quit smoking before taking on the role of the Penguin, which unfortunately required him to smoke. And
that sucks.
Yeah, the trademark laugh, the I think I've read that was caused by the cigarette smoke irritating his throat, which... I mean, it's a great laugh, it's just unfortunate that it had to be produced under those circumstances. I remember reading something where he once said something along the lines of, the main draw to doing Batman was that it was fashionable.
Yeah, because I know the show was actually really big.
Oh yeah, it was huge. It was extremely popular. I mean, like I said, it was so popular that it stole the Munsters audience away from them, and I mean, it was a pop culture phenomenon. It was, one of the... I like to think it was one of the defining television shows of the 1960s. A lot of people think of TV in the 60s, they think of Batman.
Batman or Star Trek, I would say.
And we should also talk about Lee Merriweather as Catwoman, I think.
Yeah.
She does a good job. Julie Newmar was the main Catwoman at that point on the TV show, but unfortunately, at the time the movie was filmed, she was busy filming another movie, so they had to replace her. And I think Lee Merriweather does a pretty good job. She brings that kind of, feline savagery to it, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and I love how, like, out of nowhere, she'll just start making that cat sound, like when she's looking through the periscope in their submarine. She just out of nowhere she goes meow, and that one one of the henchmen is like looking at her like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and also when the villains ambush Bruce at his mansion and they're fighting him, she just kind of goes like. But then realizes she's supposed to be the helpless, Russian Miss Kitka, and puts her hand away before anyone sees. I love watching all the actors, Adam West, Burt Ward. I met them twice. The first time was at the Super Mega Show 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years, wow. And I remember I was waiting on Adam West's line, my dad and I were. It was a while, because, they are so popular. And I finally got up to meet him, picked out one of his photos from his table, just a solo shot of him as Batman. And, I didn't get long, because they want to keep the line moving. I didn't get too much time with him, but I did get to say, oh, it's such a pleasure to meet you. And I think he asked me my name, and I told him Jeremy. And he said, oh, well, I'm very glad you came, Jeremy. And I remember shaking his hand, and he was very nice. And I also met Burt Ward. and he was very nice too. I think I vaguely remember asking him what wearing the costume was like, and he said, "Oh, I used to call them my python pants because they were so tight." My dad actually took some photos of Adam West from afar. Weren't really supposed to do that. His agent, Fred, was very strict about that. In fact, while we were waiting online for Adam West, my dad said, "Oh, I'll hold your spot online, go look around the convention, have fun." So I did, and I happened to pass his agent, Fred, talking to some of the employees or volunteers, of the convention, and he said, who do I talk to about getting security for Adam's table? I remember I went back to the line where my dad was talking to some of the other people in line, and I told them what I heard his agent say, and one of them kind of sarcastically said, "Oh yeah, we're a real angry mob standing here patiently in line. What's he worrying about?" It was a great experience, and I also met Lee Merriweather, who played Catwoman in the movie. She was very nice. I talked to her for a few minutes. She said, when I told her I was going to be studying cinema studies at SUNY Purchase, she said, "Well, if you ever become a famous director, and if you ever have a part for an old lady, please look me up." Yeah, she was very nice too. I also got a photo with a Batman cosplayer who I swear jumped right off the screen from the TV show. His costume was that good. And outside they also had, I don't know if they were the actual ones or replicas, they had replicas of the Batplane, the Batmobile. They got, I think, Burt Ward to sign the Batmobile. I was just like a kid in a candy store. Well, I was a kid at a convention, but the second times I met them was at Chiller Theater in 2015. I purchased the Pro Photo Op with Adam West, Burt Ward, and Julie Newmar. It was the group shot. I later got the picture signed by Adam, and that was just wonderful. I have nothing but good memories of meeting them.
Like, one of my favorite scenes is when Batman's coming out of the water and the fucking shark is hanging from his leg, and Robin's like, "Holy sardine!" And then Batman's like, "Robin, hand me the shark-repellent bat spray!" And they just conveniently happen to have shark-repellent bat spray.
Yeah, and I also love the fact that, I always get a kick out of the fact that shark looks so fake.
Also, when you brought up this line to me before we started recording, I love the part where the villains fire a torpedo at Batman and Robin, but apparently a porpoise moved in front of the torpedo.
Here, I'll get out the line. "Gosh, Batman, the nobility of the almost human porpoise." "True, Robin. It was noble of that animal to hurl himself into the path of that final torpedo. He gave his life for ours." Yeah. He says it so seriously. It's such a ridiculous line.
Another line that really cracks me up from this movie is when Batman and Robin first go up in their Batcopter and they're flying over Gotham City. You just see that one guy on the ground going, "Gives a fellow a good feeling to know they're up there doing their jobs." I don't know why, but that just made me laugh my ass off when I was rewatching the movie. Yeah, it's a silly freaking movie, but it's meant to be, and that's part of the charm of the movie. Yeah. And again, if you're used to the darker, more serious Batman, if you're used to, the Christopher Nolan Batman, or the most recent The Batman, or movies like Joker, or even the first two Tim Burton Batman movies, you might be really taken aback with how ridiculous this movie is. And I can understand, if you're more used to the serious Batman, you might not like this, but if you realize that there are so many different interpretations of this character and just go with it. Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Absolutely.
The show was so popular that for a long time, even after it was canceled, when people thought of Batman, this is what they thought of him as, the over-the-top, campy, pow, kapow, Obviously, when Tim Burton started to make his movie, he wanted to bring it back to the earlier comics. He wanted to bring the darkness back to Gotham. And I've heard that Adam West was opposed to making Batman dark when he heard that Tim Burton was making his movie. And he also wanted to play Batman again, despite being 61 at the time.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Yeah, we forgot to mention that one. Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. That's another one of those silly lines that he says seriously.
So yeah, that was our review of Batman the movie, and bye.